there's confusion, lots of complexity and confusion about AI right now, right? There's so much. And I think everyone feels overwhelmed and bombarded, especially small business, right? They're busy. The last thing they're thinking about is, oh, how can AI help me? They just want to get stuff done.
Hello and welcome to In the Blink of AI, where I speak to the brightest AI startups and innovators each week. I'm Georgie Healy, and this week I am speaking to Sha-mayne, co-founder at Friyay. Friyay helps small businesses grow with specialized AI assistants and agents. We talk about how Friyay are currently building autopilots to help companies use and adopt AI tools, helping them streamline and connect their services, and they don't need to be deeply technical to get the best out of AI products. We talk about Sha-mayne's co-founder role. She's the non-technical co-founder and leverages her deep knowledge in human-centered design. I somehow managed to swing the conversation into Taylor Swift and politics for a while there, but it's only brief, I promise. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hi, Sha-mayne. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am thrilled to speak to you about Friyay. It's a sunny Friday morning here, so perhaps you can start by telling me about your business.
Well, actually, it's Happy Friyay.
Discuss.
Look, thank you for having me. It's really great to be part of this podcast. So we're Friyay, and really our mission is to help small businesses set their business on autopilot, right? So it's basically your business on autopilot. And the whole idea there is, with generative AI, how can everyone free their time for what really matters most, right? So, and what matters most is, for some people, it's growth. How can I free my time for growth? How can I free my time to really focus on the things I love to do? As opposed to, if you think about small businesses, they're constantly doing things that they don't necessarily want to do. But as a small business, you have to do all of it, lots of hats. And then also maybe you just want to spend more time with your family.
Amazing. I actually, before we jumped on the pod, saw a friend who has a full-time job, by the way, has hit Bunnings for beating the weekend rush, got some weekend projects. And I remember thinking, man, I wish I was at Bunnings right now. So you're freeing up time for people to go to Bunnings.
Yeah. I think when we started Friyay, and when it first, that's not 2 years now, right? I think about 2 years when ChatGPT first came on. We just saw the potential of what generative AI was going to have and the impact on not only our work lives, but also our personal lives. And obviously, they're tied in together, right? It's not just like work and personal. They're slippery boundaries. And basically, we just went, wow, the potential to really change how people live and work and live is phenomenal. So we just got to take this and really support companies and people and how they work. And that's why we all jumped in. We just went, this is basically, and that's how we started Friyay. And hence Friyay, the name being, every day should feel like a Friyay, that you've got to the end of the week and you've achieved so much, as opposed to getting to the end of the week and you're still frustrated. It's like, yay, every day.
I love the philosophy. I love the name. And you touched upon GPT and a feeling that many of us had when we started playing with the app and getting immediate value from it. I remember typing in a few prompts about, going away for a long weekend and what should I do, instead of endless searches on the internet with out-of-date articles and things like that. How is Friyay different from a ChatGPT then? Why should we not just go to ChatGPT?
That's an awesome question. So look, we're a year old and it feels like a lot has happened already. But what has been really interesting for us is the conversations we're having with small and medium business. There's three of us and our backgrounds are slightly different and slightly similar. So my background is in design and service design and digital transformation. And when you put that all together, what's really important is the overall holistic approach and experience, right? So in companies I've worked in the past, what we always found was people in the past, right? So the first development of technology and adoption of technology would be people just going in a large organization. You'd have someone, a business, going, you know what, project management's really irritating, or this process of ours is really irritating. So we need to find a tool. We need to make it better. And then they'd go to tech, and tech would go, oh yes, we will solve this problem for you. And then tech will come up with a tool, or a SaaS, or they'll create something, and they go, here guys or girls, and they will go, hang on, but it doesn't do this, and it doesn't do this, and it doesn't do this. And it's like, so the whole thing about our approach, which comes from our backgrounds of being service designers and experience designers, where an experience design meaning how does the person who's using it experience it? And service design is all about, it's the journey, right? So it's not just one point in time. You need to actually think about the overall context of it and how it affects other points in time. Because you change one point here, it's going to change what happens downstream and upstream, right? So where we're different is that we firstly want to support with this confusion, lots of complexity and confusion about AI right now, right? There's so much, and I think everyone feels overwhelmed and bombarded. And what we want to do is say, especially small business, right? They're busy. The last thing they're thinking about is, oh, how can AI help me? They just want to get stuff done, right? So where can you start? So the whole idea of helping them with adoption and assessment tools of where am I in the journey? Where is my team? And then from there, identify, well, what are the kind of roadmaps? And where do we start? And where can it take us? And how do we not just start in like this huge kind of everything on all? It's like, well, you start small, but identify where's important, what's going to be the best place to start. And then you bring your team on the journey with you too, right? It's not just about you. You've got to bring your team on the journey. And what does that mean? Where are they on the ChatGPT learning curve? So that with the adoption assessment tools, that's like the place you can start if you want to. Then the other part we're really, and that you'll see it in all our LinkedIns and YouTubes and so forth, is the actual tips and tricks and training, right? So it's not just about picking up a tool and going, just use it. Actually, it's thinking about how you use it and giving you the know-how and the mindset to use it, because it's otherwise, like, we've had lots of conversations with people. One of our favorite tools right now, and I should have bought shares, is Otter. Otter is a transcription service. It joins meetings. Now, we started using it when it first came out, and it was fantastic. Like, it just, well, as a service designer, it changed our lives for interviews, right? Because all of a sudden I wasn't madly scribbling notes and spending hours transcribing. I was suddenly having this whole transcript right in front of me that I could analyze straight away. Now, that in itself is saving me hours. The incredible thing about Otter is that people go, oh, great. So they use it. And then they get their meetings transcribed. It's their note taker. It can actually go to another meeting for you if you're not the key person in there. So that saves you time. But what a lot of people didn't understand was there's this feature called Otter Chat. Now, that is, you can push how you use it. So Otter Chat is like your own little GPT in there. You can critique the entire transcript. You can get it to summarize. You can get it to write emails for you. It's not just, buying a tool and saying, hey, team, use it. It's actually giving them the mindset of curiosity was one of them. And then actually just the training to actually go, oh, this is going to be the most effective way that my team can use it. And not to use it in necessarily the same ways that you've always used tools. You need to think about how it's going to change your flow in your process. How can it improve it?
This human-centered design is becoming so clearly such a valuable thing at the early stage, right? Because you don't have to wait to get value.
Well, the third thing is that we're currently building autopilots to just help companies just use and adopt tools that don't need that technology know-how to use, to help them streamline and connect their services. So that's what we're in production in, basically, internally. So that's the next exciting thing we're doing, basically. So then ultimately what we want to do is give a small business an understanding what their roadmap can look like, where they can go to, and then provide them with the training. Workshops are online. And then also when they're ready for it, they can actually then go, okay, well, then I can use this after I've tried other tools. I can now use this tool and connect everything together, or actually just do something really fast and really simple.
Give me a customer example or an industry example. I'm dying to hear what it would look like.
One thing that we're actually looking to focus on is lead generation. We've had lots of conversations, and there are a lot of pain points as well, right? Like small businesses, like if you think about a small business owner, you started the business because you are passionate or an expert at one area, right? You're an accountant or you're a designer or whatever, right? So that's your expertise. And you're like, oh, I'm really good. This is going to make money out of this. It's going to be my, my business. And then all of a sudden they suddenly go, oh my God, I've got to do lead generation. I've got to do marketing. I have got to do admin. I've got to do, I've got to do invoices. I've got to, all that, right? It's all the different parts of your business that you suddenly have to fulfill. And this is why we sort of go, wow, generative AI has a real potential to help you there, right? So we all know about marketing and social media, right? There's so many tools out there for you to create posts, to create videos, to, really accelerate that, right? And even just to get ideas. So, that was one example. But what we're finding it's really interesting is that lead generation is really important for growth and sales. And I think there's two things about lead generation that is interesting. One is actually just depending on who you are and how you want to do it is how do you attract, right? So entice. And that could be your marketing in terms of how do you do your marketing faster in a more efficient way, get your ideas out there quicker. So that could be how to write faster. What are the tools to actually write? Because, not everyone's a great writer, but everyone's got ideas and learnings and insights from just being who they are, working in whatever industry they're in. So, if you're I'm just going to choose like a gardener, they might not like writing, or maybe there are lots of gardeners that do, but let's say you're an industry where you're just like, oh, well, I didn't do this to write. I was the designer. I didn't go into design to write, let me tell you. I just wanted to create beautiful things. And then I had to write. I was like, oh, whoa, because you got to communicate. But anyone who isn't strong in writing, I'm not a huge strong writer. I can write, but wow, I can now write faster and better, and it can actually be improved. So what are the tools to help people in small business for things like marketing, image generation, but with clarity, like not just so that you get exactly what everything looks like a robot. And then the other one that we think is really interesting is lead generation. So what is the lead generation flow for a business, and how can generative AI really support that? And one example is, is creating proposals. And this is a pain point that we see a lot. You have a meeting and you have to create a proposal because you don't get the proposal out, you don't get the buy, you don't get the sale. And what we find is that people get back to the offices and they're ready to write the proposal and go and get it sent out. But it doesn't happen, right? You get to your desk and next thing you know, you have emails, you have meetings, you're being distracted. And next thing you know, your proposals are out for like 3 or 4 days or maybe 2 days. And you don't want that. You want to get it out while it's, inverted commas, hot and present in the mind of that potential customer. So the idea is we want to help support that with an autopilot and training to just literally when you finish your meeting, it will do the proposal for you and get it out at, probably 80%, 90%.
I think so many people that have been on this journey, even myself included, you don't actually know all of these jobs that are required until you've started the business, you're in the business.
Yeah.
And you think, you're going to get efficiencies of scale as you get bigger, but the jobs just get more complex and the customers are just more and there's just more things to answer. It actually doesn't necessarily get easier. Even if as your team grows, you've just got more people to manage.
Oh, well, then it gets even harder.
Yeah, exactly. That's fascinating about the proposal piece. And I'm guessing you have existing customers, you've got to answer their needs. So getting more lead gen while also looking after your existing customers, very complex. This is a horizontal AI play.
Yeah. Yes.
And there's so much talk about horizontal versus vertical AI and which is better. And maybe you can have a shot at why horizontal AI for SMBs as opposed to going really deep on a certain industry vertical.
I think the key thing here is that when you look at how you work, right? And this really comes from our background as in service design and design and experience design. What you always find that's really interesting is that there's a whole process, right? When I say process, it's like whatever you do as a small business is an experience for your customer. And whatever you do affects the customer eventually. And what we've found is that a lot of time people try and solve just this one area. And that's great because sometimes it's a huge pain point. But they don't think what happens when they solve it or don't solve it. So in the past, we've worked with large customers, organizations, where we find that the problem right at the end, where they're losing money or there's a huge pain point is because of a problem right at the beginning. And if you had just focused right at the end, you wouldn't necessarily solve all of it and the main problem that's coming from the beginning. So I think the reason why we go, look, we believe it's a horizontal view. And one of our co-founder, Ben, talks about this a lot. It's two things. One, it's this notion of skeuomorphism. And skeuomorphism is this idea, and there's two examples I can use where when television first came out, was released, the way it was used was they would actually film people talking with a microphone in front of them, with just two people talking to a microphone. So they basically filmed people on radio.
Like us right now. They're doing this. People would watch that.
And that was what all TV was, right? They used it in the way that everyone's been used to consuming media at that point, right? So that's how you would listen to people and watch people. You know, for once you can see them, but all they're doing is doing the same thing, talking to each other. And the other example of skeuomorphism is like, you know, when the iPhone first came out, and basically, you remember you had your calendar looked like a book. So with pages and tabs, and your contacts looked like a actual, you know, contact book, like your Filofax.
Sha-mayne, I'm a Android user, so I don't remember this, but I'm old enough that I do remember the Nokias and what they looked like. So I can imagine, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just thinking, people are telling me these things. Personal experience, no idea. No. So the whole idea is that this is something that we keep testing ourselves internally, like in our team. We go, don't look at and use AI in that same way. Like really try and push how you think about your current processes and how it's done, because that's where you get real change and shift. And the horizontal view of that is the same. Right? As an example, one of the biggest practices that we've changed in our team with using Otter is that we actually end up talking to Otter in meetings or just ourselves, and then we actually then generate the content. We don't necessarily sit there and write anymore, because what we find is that when we're discussing things, so we'll jump into a meeting, there'll be whoever needs to be there, and we will Otter it, and then it will create all the points, and that could be our proposal.
Fantastic.
At the end of the meeting, instead of just doing the next thing, we literally have changed the way we schedule our meetings. We will schedule a 15-minute meeting straight after that meeting we've had with someone, the potential customer, and we will create the proposal then and there.
Amazing.
Using Otter and the transcribed. So then we get it straight out. The difference of what we want to achieve for our customers is that us at this point was very simple, but that we have people we're talking to where the proposals are much more complex. It's not just, words. It's like, well, what's the actual template that they use and what's the actual products that they have? So how can we reduce that complexity to make it something really simple as well? But you change the way you work.
Yeah.
With the tools that you have, because then that person who maybe the salesperson who maybe would have done that proposal 3 days later is doing it 15 minutes later and having a check, because you always check, of course, because you're still, we call it the human in the loop. We believe AI is in our loop, by the way. We're the ones in the process. We're the ones doing everything, and the AI is in our loop. And you can send it out. Imagine if you just send it out, even if it's just at the end of the day versus 3 days later.
Yeah, you raise a really compelling case of just humans going with the path of least resistance, right? If this solution really does make your life a whole lot easier, even if there's an education required to learn the tool or get the team on board, if it saves you time and energy and it's seamless, people will adopt it.
Yeah.
How do you measure the impact you guys are making with Friyay? Like, what are you looking for to see those signals that you're making an impact?
Oh, gee, Georgie, that's a good question. Early days for us.
Yeah.
There's a few things that which we even measure ourselves, right? Which we're really passionate about. Though it's hard to say that because you're a startup and you're like, oh, Jasmine Howe's doing this because we're a startup. The whole idea of Autopilot is so that people have the freedom to do what they want to do, right? And I think it's using your time smartly, but there's so much to do. So one of our personal measures for us, which I think we'd like to definitely track in terms of our products and our solutions, is how much time are you saving so that you can do something else? How much more are you doing as well? So we really believe in generative AI not as a tool or a solution or a technology, because it's everywhere, to replace people. Like for us, it's really about augmenting, right, and improving. So if you're one-man salesperson or one-man owner is selling X times more, in 6 months, like, am I getting my proposals out faster? Because sales is a numbers game, right? So am I getting more proposals out, and am I getting them out faster, and am I getting more wins?
You can control that, right? You can control the number of proposals you're putting out, and ipso facto, probably the likelihood of selling more.
Yeah.
Amazing metrics. And you mentioned you guys are early, right?
Yes.
I mean, early stage startup, building a personalized AI assistant. I'm sure there's challenges involved.
Yes.
What is the hardest part? Like, tell me, as someone who's never done something like this and finds it fascinating, well, what's hard about building something like this? What's something that people wouldn't understand?
Oh, gee. There's so many things, Georgie. Oh, gee, sometimes you think the technology is the easy bit when you're a small business, when you're a startup. And I know everyone talks about, we built this platform and it was amazing and all that stuff. But I think we've been on a little journey, even if it's just been 1 year. It's actually being really learning a lot in terms of what potential customers want, right? Who are our customers? I think the whole idea of the research, the understanding of the market, there's so much out there. There's so much AI. There's so many companies, and they're all doing really incredible things and really amazing. But the alignment of what you're good at with what is needed in the market, it's not easy, right, to land that. And it's like the whole idea of, and we've changed a few times, right? And I think one thing is actually being able to say, well, we started here and it's no longer what we should be doing.
Yep.
So at this point, it's actually getting really concrete on that. And what does that mean, right? Because now we've got to hit the hard things like the numbers, what's the roadmap? What are we going to start with, and where are we going to keep growing? And then the technology is an interesting one because we do have a CPO working with us, but I think we're trying to challenge ourselves to go faster using the tools that there are. So it's not just us telling SMBs, hey, try this and do this. We actually do it too, because we actually need to be the ones that, unless we're doing it, then how can we tell people what they're doing, right? And I'd love to hear other startups, unless every startup we know is basically, wow, I got it and I just went, that's it. And we're like, how did you do that?
I don't think that happens very often, does it?
No. Well, it does. I'm really jealous.
Yeah, and they've struck lightning. Even the success stories. You make a good point about the fact that I don't know why I didn't realize earlier. You are an SMB that's also doing everything. So you are your own use case, which I guess comes, that must be a huge benefit to you guys, right? Because you're going to know very quickly and early on that either it works and it helps you or it doesn't. And you know your customer quite deeply, right?
Yeah. And I think that the main thing about what we want to provide is real solutions, not just in practical examples, real solutions. And I think, and I find this really interesting, and I've said it a few times, but there was a study done where they said Australians are the most nervous globally when it comes to AI. It was like 70% nervous versus 23%. The Japanese were the least nervous, they're at 23%.
Really?
Yeah, I do have the study. I'm happy to share it with you.
Would love the study.
I heard it and I read it and I went, that's really amazing. So we're like 70%, and I think the global average was like about 60 or 55 or something like that. And I just thought, wow, what does that mean? And, there's a hypothesis about that. Is it because we hear so much about, ethics and regulation and, so I'm too scared to jump in? Or is it about this just overwhelm? It's just everything. There's so much to do. I'm already doing so much as a small business owner, or even large organizations are the same, right? But how can I possibly do this as well?
Yeah.
Gee, I know it's going to help me, but where do I start? And there's 60,000 tools coming out everywhere and so forth. So I think the idea is to just it's really practical. And the thing is, you don't actually need to have special skills to do this. So the other reason why we sort of saw this as this incredible opportunity is that this tech is in your pocket, right? It's in everyone's pocket. It's not like you need a whole technology team to do this. You've got to be able to just jump in, and it's the skills like communication. It's all the transferable skills that everyone has as part of their roles, part of talking, communicating, brainstorming ideas. It's not something where you basically have to have an expertise. You can get started. And I think that's what's exciting about it. And it actually means that anyone can do it. The opportunity's there. The nervousness is interesting. Do you have a theory?
I don't know if you noticed, I was madly typing in the background what the median age in Japan versus Australia was, because I'm like, it's the boomers. It's got to be the boomers. It's funny though, I don't know if this is relevant, but VMAs were 2 nights ago or something. Taylor Swift has a big sway on voting and what the younger demographic choose to do, and her backing Kamala Harris as opposed to Trump, and referring to being scared of AI. Now she's not a boomer, and she's really impacting the younger demographic. I know we talked about an actual study that you've done, and now I'm speculating, but it is interesting to see the fear mongering about AI and adoption. And she was referring to AI making it look like creating deep fakes, essentially saying that she was backing Donald Trump and that wasn't her. Yeah, I'm curious if you think that will change.
I've always believed in education and information, right? Like, I think that if you understand, if people really know how it works, and it doesn't necessarily need to be in a deep level, but just even understanding how it works and what it can do. And I think jumping on and testing it yourself, there's not, you don't have to put in all your data in there. It's not like, it is, you can completely anonymize it and still have a great time learning. And it's personal as well as commercial or business. So, you gave that great example of travel, getting a travel plan. I when my daughter was in school, I got it, and she was such a fussy lunch person. I got it to write her lunch recipes for her because I was going nuts.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah.
I just said, so give me 5, and all the requirements had to be gluten-free. Couldn't it be cold? It had to be, all these things. I was like, I don't know. And make it different.
I put my mum through the same thing. One day I was vegetarian, the next day pescatarian. And wait, pescatarian? I made up like a religion plus only eating fish. It's a thing I probably put my mum through. Like, yeah, it's impossible to keep up, right? But
Yeah.
and my dad is a perfect example of fearful of AI, but also so obsessed with sci-fi. And I'm like, Dad, you would have a field day. It's not scary.
You would love it.
He would love it. Like, he would just play with it forever, and he refuses to even like open up a chatbot screen.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, isn't it interesting?
And we also really believe that SMBs is the place to democratize AI, right? They can. It's a small team. It's a decision they can make on their own. You've just got to be smart about which products you use, which tools you use. It doesn't necessarily mean that you've got to spend thousands and thousands and thousands. We've got this other trick too, which is basically, which we suggest to people, is that don't necessarily go all in on the one product and get the annual subscription. Try it for a few months. And then if it really works for you, then get the annual subscription, right? You don't have to lock yourself in.
I have done that with Canva so many times. Like, sign up, create some invites for party invitations, delete the app. Sign in. Oh my gosh, I've got another presentation I need to do, delete the app altogether. Like, but it's true. And that's actually made me quite loyal, because there's no switching cost to trying it and then deleting it later.
And we definitely will try tools for a few months because a lot of these tools, the costs aren't really high, right? And we'll try for a few months, and then if we find that it's really supporting what we need to do, we use it.
Fantastic.
And Canva's an interesting one, right? It's quite the AI tools are quite amazing. Leonardo now joining Canva,
Huge,
is like, that's going to be quite interesting. It's going to be incredible. So, like, that is a tool we use a lot.
Me too.
Yeah, and I think it's because it's easy, you know. Oh, gee, maybe she got shares in Canva, Georgie. I wish I did.
And Otter. Canva, Otter, Leonardo. We're really realizing where we've missed a few tricks, but not again. Friyay stocks. Get on it, guys.
But yeah, so I think, just experiment.
Yeah, agree. Switching lanes a little bit, I'd love to kind of dig a little bit deeper on you yourself, Sha-mayne. Like, you've got such an incredible background, 30 years of experience in this human-led innovation. I think in this conversation, it's becoming very clear that passion is being realized still. But what inspired you to take the leap and become a co-founder of a startup? Very different to what I'm sure you have been doing previously.
When I started designing, I was a graphic designer. When I started designing, it was basically pre-digital. So it was French curves and pen and ink and paper and sticking things down, and it was beautiful. And but it was very labor intensive. It was crafty. It was fantastic. Phenomenal things. And then all of a sudden, this like square box showed up, and this square box was a Mac. And oh my God, it changed our lives, right? Suddenly we weren't designing on ginormous architecture tables anymore. We were sitting in front of a computer, designing on computers.
When was this? How old were you when that happened? Or maybe not ages. We don't have to get into ages, but I'm just like, paint the picture.
I'm going to think it was in the 90s.
Yeah.
It was definitely the 90s.
Was it one of those beautiful, like, multicolored Apple?
Oh, no, Georgie, it was the first square one.
Oh, sorry. Never mind.
I've been through the bubblegum one too. Yes. I got the bubblegum one with the blue one. I mean,
so beautiful. You had a blue one.
The round one with the head that swiveled. I still have them. They're
really
beautiful.
Yeah. Why'd you pick the blue one? There were so many colours. You've got a visual design background. Come on.
Tell you, the blue was really happy.
I get that.
What happened is that every time there was a huge technological shift, my industry, which was design, shifted with it. And even Canva is a huge technological shift to design. And so was 99 Designs. That was a huge technological shift to design. So going from paper to this computer, Photoshop 1, you can only go backwards once. You can only undo once. It was insane. We used to have millions of files in little tiny floppy disks, no zip drives, you know. So, and then I had my own design company, and then also this internet came with websites and stuff, and also you had to every company had to have a website. I just went, oh my God, I need to shift from branding and design to a completely. Life is now digital. You know, what technology? What does that mean? And then I moved into a iOS app building company, design and building company. We built basically digital products for enterprise. And it was there that I started learning about, it's not just about the design. And design is a big word, right? Because design is how you live, how you use. But I just suddenly saw the whole notion of how you experience it, right? So the whole thing about how people use tools, how people use apps, what you learn from it, and what is the journey that they go on from starting onboarding to logging off. But then how does it fit within their day? So that whole notion of service design, experience design, and it was like, wow, it's not just the app. It's everything around it. And, that's what Apple's amazing at. That's what Netflix is amazing at, all those large companies. And then it was digital transformation for other organizations that we worked at. And then digital transformation was, how can things be more efficient? How can things have better processes? And it's all digital, right? So how we work and play is all these different platforms. So when generative AI came on, we just saw the value and potential of it. And just went, this is going to change us. It's going to change how we do everything. And it's exciting for the better, I want to spend less time. I want more freedom myself.
Yes.
So that's what we're building. So selfishly, we're building it and want to share it. So we're going to get there and everyone else will too. So we just went all in. We just went, we need to do this. We have to do this. We need to create this business that helps. And if we can do it, everyone else can do it too.
It's interesting. You're clearly, despite your skills in the visual arts and the background you talk about, you're not a purist in the sense of you're all pen and paper still. And do you still use those skills in that, that you have, obviously? I'm imagining you could sketch right now if I asked you to.
I don't know. Don't ask me.
but do you still use those? And was it a hard battle that you had to fight when you saw the technology coming up? Some people might have found that quite scary, especially if that's what your domain experience had been so far. And you'd crafted such a lifestyle around that.
No.
Okay.
No, I really appreciate the tools. I love it. They're all different learnings. So I still believe in an idea, right? So you can't just necessarily jump on and with no thoughts and no ideas. You can ChatGPT. It's just like any tool, right? You've got to use it in a really smart way. How can you get the best out of it? Right? And it does give you more, but it's just like with Leonardo, you can prompt, and Canva, you can prompt imagery, but if you don't know what you're trying to achieve, you're just going to get anything. And that's fine if that's what you want. But if it's something you're looking for, you need to then go, okay, well, how do I prompt this? How am I smart about prompting it so I get what I want, right? Because it fits my brand or whatever it is. So I find technology really exciting. I find development really exciting. I think what's really exciting is that you have to constantly evolve. This didn't exist when I started working. It wasn't even an idea in any business's brain. There's prompt engineer. What's that? That didn't exist 5 years ago. And our lives are going to constantly change. Our careers are going to constantly change. So I think the main thing for me is that I'm constantly evolving with my career and with what's happening around me. The reason why I closed my brand agency, I had that for 9 years, and it was a brand agency with strategic design, and we built brands and all the collateral around it, and it was paper. We were still doing business cards and letterheads and annual reports and so forth. It was a small company. Had the best time, but then I suddenly realized 99 Designs came along. right? And now you've got Fiverr, you have Upwork, you have all of them, and even more now. But when 99 Designs came on, and then Canva came, well, Canva came on a little bit later, but I just sort of went, this is going to change my industry. This is going to change small graphic design companies. And we were doing great and we loved it, but I can't compete with a freelancer on 99 Designs who is a good designer and who's going to charge $1,000 or for a whole brand and suite of materials. So for where I've come from, technology has always had a huge impact on my industry, and I've always gone, wow, what does that mean? Because and you know, what's that going to change? How's it going to improve things? How is it going to really shift what we do and how we do it? Because I think the stuff that 99 Designs is doing is incredible.
Agree. I mean, some of us, me being very guilty of this, thought I had to teach myself coding, and I'm quite glad I didn't, because now AI can do that for me. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There are some skills I'm really glad to outsource. Okay,
Yeah.
Sha-mayne, I've got a very rapid fire questions to finish on.
Oh, wow.
I am going to say something and you're going to tell me the first thing that comes to mind.
Oh, my God. Okay.
How does that sound?
All right.
In-person or remote working?
Oh, both.
Both. What part of your life would you immediately outsource to machines?
Oh, gosh. All admin.
Yes. Anything you think is more hype than value?
Does it have to be AI?
No. Can be anything.
I think what's more hype is the idea of, oh no, I can't say it, because I was just going to say, I used to believe social media was all hype more than value, but actually I'm finding that's not true, because I think that people are actually learning a lot through social media these days. It's actually quite interesting.
Like what?
So can I answer it that way?
Like, yeah, give me an example. What are they getting value from social media?
What I'm finding and what we're finding is that social media is really fast in terms of getting the newest things, right? So sometimes, and things like Reddits and Substacks and so forth, there's maybe less Substack because they're long form, but when you want to find out something real fast, sometimes you'll find it out on LinkedIn.
Agree.
You'll find out on Twitter. Keeping up to date actually is faster on those platforms than it is in traditional media. I also find what's really interesting is that I get more ideas from people on social media sometimes than, and because it's fast, right? I still love the long forms. I still have lots of Substacks I follow. But I used to think social media was hype and I'd be like, oh God, who bothers? But now I'm like, wow, I think that's the fastest place for me and the quickest place for me to find things out.
I love the people that hate social media but then don't count, being on Twitter as like,
oh, yeah.
actually not mentioning, my partner or anything, who thinks Instagram and me like being prolific on that isn't the same as him just on fintech Twitter all weekend. No. That's totally different. Yeah.
That's serious stuff.
That's important business related content. Okay, there is a term for the top tech companies called the Magnificent Seven. Not sure if you've heard of this.
No, I haven't.
And I have yet to hear of someone who has been able to list all seven. I'm going to put you on the spot now and see what you think they are. The Magnificent Seven. Who do you think they are?
Okay, I'm going to be a bit torn between unicorns and large companies, right? So you're going to have the large.
Think large. Think biggest.
Okay, it's going to be Google. It's going to be like NVIDIA. It's going to be Otter.ai. It's going to be Google, OpenAI, NVIDIA, Microsoft. What's another big one? Google.
You talked about using one of these early in your career, which was a game changer for you.
Oh, Apple, of course.
Yeah.
Jesus, how can I forget that one?
That's okay. Look, it's hard. You're on the spot. Okay, I'm going to cut you off. You definitely got 4. We've also got Tesla, believe it or not, goes in this category.
Yeah.
Meta or Facebook.
Of course, Facebook. Yes, Meta.
And that's and Amazon. That's it. So we've.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, well done. No, that's very good. Very good on the spot. Now you know they're Magnificent Seven. And the hottest of hot takes to finish us, Melbourne or the Sydney startup scene, Sha-mayne? Which one's better?
Oh, come on. It's got to be Sydney.
Yeah. Correct answer. I mean, come find us. Okay, I'm going to put the floor to you now. This has been such an incredible chat. We've talked politics, we've talked horizontal AI, we've talked Apple Macs, and I've absolutely loved it. What would you like to shout out to the people listening about Friyay?
Look, follow us on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Instagram, because we've got lots of tips and tricks for using AI on it. And the reason why there are lots of tips and tricks there is because you can pick up things and learn things really fast, right? It don't need a lot of time. And the other thing that we have, which you can sign up on our website, is our newsletter. It's called Useful, Not Playful. And what it's got is one handy tip, one like must try tool, one powerful prompt, and basically one curated content that is worth your time. So we create them. And it's just one of each that you can just test during the week, and just stay in touch either on LinkedIn or on our website. We are going through a rebrand. Georgie, we're on first year and this is our second brand. So because we're like, wow, we need to change.
When you're good at things like logos, Sha-mayne, you keep doing them, right?
Because we're like, well, that's a wrong message. This is now the right message. The idea is that we're mid-brand and we're updating our website, but we'll also be, putting up all our what we talked about, so the adoption assessment tools, and then the autopilots and the training. And if you join the newsletter, you'll know. And on top of that, you keep it on our website and LinkedIn. You'll find out when we release them all, bit by bit.
I've signed up to all of these and I love them. So thank you so much, Sha-mayne. This has been an absolute pleasure. And I can't wait to see what you guys do next. Can't wait to see the rebrand. Thank you again.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun.
Bye.
Thank you soon. See ya.
Thank you for listening to In the Blink of AI. You can check out the show notes for anything discussed in this week's episode, and we will be back next week. This podcast was produced by Day One, with music by Dan Hansen and visual artwork by Sophie Tyrell. If you loved the episode, please tell your mates. And I love AI news. Please share your thoughts and suggestions to georginarosehealy@gmail.com.